Ahead and kick things off. I wanted to just welcome everyone to the online meeting for the master plan of state parks within Curry County. I'm Justin Helberg. I'm the South Coast District Manager for Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. I want to say thank you for everyone's time. Take them out in the middle of the day here on a Monday to join with us and share your perspective on the master planning process here for us. We've got about an hour to meet today, and the general roadmap for today is going to look something like this. We'll start out with some additional introductions of our planning team from OPRD. Then we'll get an abbreviated background of the process and where we're at to this point and what it looks like moving forward through this process. And then we'll have some additional time, about 30 minutes, for a workshop session to do a SWOT assessment that we'll work through. And then we'll have a final little bit at the end here to ask some additional questions and give out a little bit of additional information at the end here. So with that, again, I just want to say thank you, and want to just preface it with, these meetings up to this point have been very, very valuable. We appreciate all the input and perspective that we've gotten. So we're really excited to hear everybody's input today. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it along to the rest of the planning folks to introduce themselves.
I'll start. So I'm Jenna Marmon. I'm the planning design lead, and my role today is to facilitate the Zoom meeting. So I'll be monitoring the Q&A and advancing the slides for Haley.
And hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name's Haley Cox, and I'm a long-range planner with Oregon State Parks, managing the project here on behalf of our really great project team of field staff and our subject matter experts who are really working very hard on this project as well.
So just for the sake of confirmation here, so if you're in the audience and you can't hear, please either type a question into the Q&A or raise your hand and let us know. Otherwise, I think Haley's going to go ahead and get started with this presentation. Looking good. Yes. No cues and no raised hands.
So we can go to the next slide. Just a quick outline of the presentation here. We'll give a brief overview of the OPRD master planning process, which is outlined in Oregon Administrative Regulation, then dive into the details about the project area and schedule that we're looking at for this specific effort in Curry County, a look at some of the assessment scoping we've been doing with our internal staff so far, the preliminary themes that are rising to the surface of our discussions, and then the next steps for the project. And then we'll have a opportunity for folks to ask questions and get some answers that they're looking for before we dive into our workshop, which is going to help us inform the plan, vision, and goals. And that'll be a SWOT assessment. So kind of discussion of OPRD and our specifically to state parks in Curry County. What are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? So next slide. The Oregon State Park Master Planning process is outlined in administrative regulation to ensure that the process includes a robust assessment of all of the elements of each park site and has an opportunity for robust public engagement, including establishment of a steering committee and, kind of constant information to our Oregon State Parks and Recreation Commission, and that, opportunity for the public to weigh in on all of our sort of ideas and project proposals. So it's typically a 2-year process. It can vary greatly depending on the scope of the project. Sometimes we initiate master plan projects with individual parks. Sometimes we're looking at, kind of a series of parks, maybe one management unit, or in this case, we're looking at quite a few parks in 2 management units. But in any case, we kick off the project looking at those site assessments, which include a look at our natural and cultural resources, some of our management strategies, you know, the safety, accessibility, and just property rights that are kind of unique to each site. Those assessments help us draft our kind of goals, the vision, values, goals, and strategies, the framework that helps kind of justify our development proposals ultimately. And that part of the project is typically done with our in-house staff. Sometimes in the past, we've brought on consultants to inform specific elements of those assessments, but it's a huge part of the, you know, how we're able to actually create a plan. First, we need to assess what's there. And so once, you know, and we're kind of in the process of that right now, but we're just beginning our public engagement, as that is also a critical kind of assessment piece. It's both an assessment and an opportunity to provide that feedback. So in the month of October, we've been kicking that off. We imagine having 2 to 3 opportunities for that public and partner engagement throughout the plan development. So once we have our assessments completed, then we start looking to the future in terms of what facility development opportunities we have, opportunities for natural resource enhancement projects, different interpretive programs that might be of interest, and especially, you know, what the local community might be looking for in our future state parks vision. All of this work goes into the draft plan. So the draft plan may include some more detailed schematic designs. You know, it's a long narrative. Some of these plans have been upwards of, you know, a couple hundred pages. So they are meant to be pretty comprehensive documents. For that said, for a 20-year plan, it's not a sort of day-to-day guide, but definitely informs our work on biennial planning and things like that. So the draft plan is another opportunity for that public engagement, where we're looking for feedback if we missed any key items, or you know, we need to take a closer look at some of the proposals with regard to consistency with local planning, whether our project proposals are consistent with, you know, county comprehensive plans, city comprehensive plans, and our state land use planning process, those goals. If, you know, after we incorporate that feedback, then ultimately the master plan is presented to the Oregon State Parks and Recreation Commission for adoption. And at which point we can work with local governments to, you know, get them adopted into those local plans where appropriate, and you know, submit for any land use permits that may be appropriate for pending projects. Move to the next slide. So this project is a master plan update for state parks in Curry County. There are 20 state parks in Curry County listed here. It might be kind of hard to read this text. It's a little small, but the northernmost one in this project area is Flores Lake State Natural Area. We go all the way down the coast from Port Orford through Gold Beach to Brookings, and to the state line where we have our Crissy Field State Welcome Center. This represents 2 OPRD management units. One that is the Cape Blanco unit, which goes from, you know, Flores Lake to Gold Beach area, and then from Gold Beach south is another unit. This is a huge amount of acreage for OPRD. It's almost 10,000 acres. Some of these parks, many of these parks are over 1,000 acres just individually. So I think it's a really unique subset of our state parks to have so many really large land masses in there. It's miles and miles of coastline as well. So really a unique and wonderful slice of the Oregon State Park System, and a pretty big undertaking to do a 20-year vision plan for these sites. So we're really excited to kick it off, and we really appreciate everyone's feedback to help us understand more about how the parks are used. So for this specific project schedule, we kind of kicked this off internally last winter with our management interviews, and we brought on our subject matter experts. The State Parks Agency has regional experts in natural and cultural resources and volunteer engagement and such, as well as statewide officers in those roles. So it's been a really collaborative effort to get folks out on the ground doing some field surveying over the summer. And now we're just kind of starting the assessment or the analysis phase of those assessments. You can see we're here in the fall where we're just kind of starting to work on this plan, vision, goals, and strategies. That's where the public engagement has just begun. And we've just had our first steering committee meeting last week as well. We'll be kind of looking at all this information that we've been gathering and throughout the rest of the fall and winter, and anticipate starting to look more specifically at individual sites and development proposals, and maybe the need for some schematic design throughout the spring and summer. We'll also be looking for public and partner feedback at those phases in the process. And we then hope to have our draft plan available for review in the fall of 2025. So there are a number of assessments that are required by the administrative regulation for state park master planning, which include our natural resources, specifically forestry and vegetation and wildlife. We are also required to look at our cultural resources and historic assets. The recreation facilities that both that we offer and other opportunities available in the region that may be provided by other jurisdictions. Looking at the demand for new facilities and the capacity for our parks to support those recreation opportunities. We also look at interpretive programs and how we're telling stories to the public and engaging the public in telling those stories. We have a pretty robust volunteer program that works in our campgrounds and in our day use areas. And so we want to look at new opportunities to engage with interested people on important projects. And then facility conditions. This can help, given that we're not looking at a lot of greenfield development here, we have existing parks, and we recognize that a lot of them, just need more of a rehab than a total revisioning, but identifying what facilities are most in need and provide great opportunities for us to take another look at. These are all pretty much required by the Oregon administrative regulations, and we have done this in past years pretty regularly, done these assessments. For this project, we are also looking at a climate vulnerability assessment because we've just seen increasing storms and anticipating more flooding and storm surge in the future that could really impact a lot of our facilities along this coastal stretch. So that assessment is the one that we probably will not be doing in-house. We'll be looking to some partners to help us deliver that assessment. And we hope to have these all completed in the spring of 2025. And for the most part, I think those will also be available to the public. We'll find a way to make sure folks who are interested in looking at those assessments will have an opportunity to see them, as they will be heavily informing our work, and should also help inform the public's perspectives on some of these really important issues. Some of the preliminary themes that are coming out of our assessment work and our internal staff discussions on this plan, climate adaptation being a big one, looking at where we have increasing impacts to storms that are affecting our roads, our culverts, our buildings, and everything that you can imagine. And that goes for ecosystem threats as well, that our park system is based on the natural resources in most cases. So it's really important for us to understand how a changing climate could impact the spread of invasive species, or some sudden oak death, for instance, in this area, diseases that can be detrimental to our natural resources. Recreation amenities obviously are the hugest way that people kind of experience our parks. So we're really interested in looking at how we're providing accessible infrastructure to people of all ages and abilities. And safe infrastructure, for folks who may not be really familiar with the parks that they're visiting, making sure people stay safe. Day use and overnight facilities, we're looking at, just the variety of facilities we have, and the capacity if we're feeling like we need to increase capacity in certain realms to address both existing and projected future demands for those. And especially with overnight facilities, that we just seeing different trends in the way that people are camping and the amenities that they're looking for in that overnight experience, incorporating yurts and cabins and RV hookup sites and things that may be, sort of non-traditional camping ideas. So group and special use facilities also kind of along those lines, we recognize that the natural resources are, generally speaking, kind of the base of our recreation system here, but that there are opportunities to incorporate other facilities for horses, for bikes, for dogs, things like that, where appropriate, that people are actually looking for in a state park as well. Community engagement and interpretation. I would say, in the post-pandemic world, it's kind of a before and after. And so kind of looking at what we were doing to engage with the public and provide education opportunities, and how we can both bring back a lot of that engagement and look for new ways to be engaged, and how people are hoping to get information from us and volunteer with us, partner with us. And that kind of goes into our management and administration as well. As I mentioned, a lot of what we're looking at here is deferred maintenance and opportunities for major rehab, rather than, just strictly new fancy facilities. So where we have the greatest need for that major maintenance projects. Also kind of our ongoing natural and cultural resources programs. These are not typically thought of as kind of capital investments, but some of them they are substantial, kind of getting out of the realm of our day-to-day maintenance. They are long-term investments that require a lot of permitting and planning. And so how do we work those into our master plan? Also, those partnership opportunities, being that, we have limited capacity for our staff to accomplish all these wonderful goals in these really large places. What can we do to leverage our partnerships with people doing, similar, very important work nearby? And then lastly, just that the staff is what keeps the wheels on the bus rolling. And so we really need to be thinking strategically about sort of recruitment and retention of important staff positions. So those are kind of the biggest themes that are rising to the top of our discussions currently, and we'll kind of continue to add to that list as we get this public feedback and partner engagement throughout the month here. So next steps, we're here at the end of October, and this is our last public meeting. So we appreciate everybody being here to engage with us. We do have a recreation user survey online available through November 15th. So we encourage you, if you haven't already, to go take that survey, and encourage your friends and colleagues to do so as well. And we also established a steering committee of other recreation and natural resource agencies working in Curry County, as well as advocacy organizations and community groups that have a nexus to our work. So those elements all kind of are working, helping us, informing us on our plan, vision, and goals. That, so that will incorporate a lot of our assessment data and that feedback we get through our public engagement to really get that framework of where we're trying to go with this. And that ultimately, when we move into the management and development proposal phase of the process, we're really guided by those vision and goals that we've established. There'll be opportunities for additional engagement in 2025 as we kind of developing some of those more site-specific proposals. So I'll just pause right there and see if we have any questions or comments on the process of park master planning and or this project specifically. If there's anything that you wanted more information on. And I'm seeing some questions in the chat about sharing the survey link, which we can definitely do that for sure.
And we can follow up with an email as well for all of you with the survey link, the link to the website, and all of the links you could ever need.
And let's see, you can go ahead and raise your hand, I think, if you have any questions. So we are going to move now into the kind of the workshop portion of the program here.
We do have one more question, Haley. I'm not sure if you saw it. I'm curious as to what issues OPRD has identified as problems to address.
Well, so the preliminary themes that I was just sharing are kind of the extent to which we've identified specific issues. These are pretty broadly applying to the whole project area. And so as we kind of work through the next few months, looking at all of our data collection and looking at all that public feedback, we're still staying pretty high level for kind of our issue identification. We will move into a more site-specific look at these places because we recognize that, they're very diverse in terms of the services they're offering and kind of the experience that people are looking for by going to them. So, to the extent that we could sort of summarize our staff findings, which is what I would classify these preliminary themes as sort of staff findings, and then, incorporate that public input as well, that we will, have a little bit more concise issue statements developed.
So I am doing my best to promote everyone to panelist.
So I'm seeing another question about the funding for the plan. And I guess thank you for that question, because I think it's really important to communicate that this is a 20-year vision plan. And so it's a menu of options and opportunities that the state park system can implement as funding becomes available. There is actually no funding earmarked for any of the proposals that may end up in this plan. We hope that it sets us up to go after potentially grant funding for projects, and also work projects into our sort of biennial budgeting process. But that said, there's nothing is really confirmed at this point.
In the meantime, for some reason, Zoom is not letting me promote the last 3 people to panelists.
I have a quick question. You mentioned greenfield development. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking. Sorry, to use a sort of unfamiliar term. We think of greenfield as, you know, park properties that have not been developed into parks yet, that have no facilities. They're just vacant land to some degree. We do have some sites in this project area that are underdeveloped for sure, that have far less amenities than you know, say like Harris Beach State Park is one of our most developed parks in this area. So that being said, that we're you know, it's sort of a different, it is a similar process, but somewhat different to look at a sort of vacant piece of property and think about how it should be developed compared to looking at a piece of property that already has a lot of infrastructure and how we could sort of use it or alter it to meet the goals that we've identified.
That makes sense. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I had one other broad scope and I might have missed it when I was going through security here at the airport. Is this the norm, the 20-year plan? So was our last big one 2020 or 2000 and 80s and 60s?
I think it is, it's typically a couple decades. Yeah. I mean, the last plan for this project area specifically was about 20 years ago. It was adopted in 2003. That said, a lot of our park master plans are much older than that. They are 30, 40, 50 years in some cases.
When you go through, it seems when you go through, like there's a lot of stuff from the 60s and the 80s. It seems like those, okay, that's good to know. So
yeah.
Yeah.
They can end up being on the books for quite a while. Yeah. If they're, you know, we have limited capacity to kind of go around and update the master plans. And especially if they, you know, they're kind of working still, if they're still relevant, if there's still a number of projects to implement. And yeah, so it really, I wish that there was kind of more of a standard, but it really just is, it's all over the board.
And then Haley, and sorry, maybe while I was frantically trying to promote everyone as panelists, I missed this, but did you answer the question about the amount of money that we are able to invest? She did. Okay. Thank you, Phoebe.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No, it's a great question, because it's one thing that we really want to manage, that expectation that it's really exciting to be part of a master planning process, because we're talking about these visionary ideas, and you know, in a lot of cases they're big, expensive projects. And so to just kind of keep the caveat there that it's like, we don't actually have money for any of this right now, but doing this work really is the way that we get set up to justify going after funding.
So is there not funding right now for the deferred maintenance? Is that just past the capacity of parks right now?
Justin, how about?
Yeah, we have an expert in the house on that one.
So could you say that again? It was kind of broken a little bit there.
Oh, when we were talking about budgeting and we talked about the rehab of some of the facilities as being one theme that the staff came up with. So my question was, currently in the budget, which I could imagine is tight, is there not money set for repairs and maintenance to do that deferred maintenance?
Yeah, so we operate off a biennial budget schedule. So every 2 years we go through a budget cycle. There is identified monies within those for general park operations, and then facility improvement, capital improvement, deferred maintenance embedded within those. Is it near enough the percentage of what's needing attention out there? Not by any means. And this kind of goes through the process of identifying and helping us prioritize over the next 20 years where we can really steer some of that money for our best impact. So yes and no, if that's fair.
I don't think we're alone in this boat of having quite a bit of deferred maintenance and quite a little of money.
Great. So I just wanted to kind of preface our workshop here with a couple slides here, just talking about this really high level plan vision. So what we see as the plan vision is a description of the destination that we would like to be in 20 years. So really thinking about kind of where we see state parks in that future, what the role of state parks is to provide both that recreation experience for people and preserving those really important ecosystems that kind of like make Oregon, Oregon. It's really the bedrock of our system is to provide those experiences. And so what do we see that looking like? What are kind of the priority things that we envision these state parks, in particular these ones in Curry County, looking like and providing to the public? So in the example that I gave here, there's obviously a priority about this is a nature-based recreation experience, and drawing people from near and far, that it's really a destination for a lot of folks that don't live in the area, but as well as, an experience that people living locally seek out. And that, conserving those ecosystems is a big part of what we do, and contributing to the local economy is a big part of what we do. So this is just an example, we may find that we have different priorities through going to this process, but I think those priorities should be kind of found right there in the vision statement. And then the goals are kind of the interim milestones and benchmarks that that if we achieve those goals, we will be on the road to success, that we can achieve those shorter term goals, then in 20 years, we could hope to have achieved our sort of vision there. So, these should be SMART, with that lovely acronym of specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-oriented. This kind of helps us track our progress towards our vision. So in the example that I gave to kind of go along with that previous vision that talks about nature-based recreation and preserving important ecosystems, how are we going to achieve that part of the vision? So this example, initiate at least one habitat restoration project every biennium, is something that we can actually track to see if we are doing or aren't doing over time. And so, that's kind of where we're at this point. We're looking to identify those kind of high level vision. What do people value? What are their priorities? And then some of those goals that can help us achieve that. So what we're going to do is a SWOT assessment, which you guys may be familiar with this. We're going to be looking at for state parks in Curry County, both kind of the physical assets themselves and, the sort of management of those. What are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? And these we see as being kind of the internal sort of like within the boundaries of our system, what's going well and what could we do better? And then the opportunities and threats that we have, which are thought of a little bit more external factors, things that we have less control over, but are integral to our success. So yeah, both opportunities coming from outside forces and threats that we could see coming from outside forces. So we will start with those internal factors of strengths and weaknesses, and we would invite you to just kind of think about that and raise your hand if you have some ideas about what we are doing well. We'll start with our strengths and we'll spend maybe 5 to 7 minutes on each one of these elements of the assessment. On strengths, we'll move to weaknesses, and we'll do the opportunities and threats, and then we'll kind of wrap up our discussion with that. So please feel welcome to tell us how awesome we are at this point. Yeah,
also,
Madeline.
just one quick note, and Madeline, I'll start with you. Let me know. So I'm going to be typing as you're talking, and please let me know if I don't capture what you were hoping to be captured. And this won't be attributed to you, but Obviously, this is recorded, so caveat that this webinar will be recorded and posted online. So I want to make sure everybody's clear on that. As far as speaking up, that being said, we encourage you to please speak up and share. So, Madeline.
Yes, we'll start with you,
Oh,
Madeline.
Okay, yeah, I would say the biggest strength is you are protecting this incredibly wild and special coastline. I can't even imagine what it would look like if it wasn't for state parks presence here, especially in this remote corner that is arguably the wildest, in my opinion, and the most scenic. It's been a lifeline for me living so far, a couple of hours from a national forest. I really am dependent on our state parks here, and I'm a big state parks user. So I think you're doing a great job at protecting our coast from
Great, thank
development,
you.
I should add.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I would say it is unique in our system to have so many, huge land tracts, kind of contiguous tracts in such close proximity to each other.
Mhm.
It's really, I would say it's an asset as well.
Right, yeah.
What other ideas do you guys have? I guess maybe, it's a very small group, and maybe if you wouldn't mind, Madeline, sharing your sort of context to this project as well.
Oh, sure.
If you guys don't mind sharing a little bit about yourselves before you tell your comment, then it kind of helps us
Oh.
get to know you guys too.
Okay, sure. I work for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and I manage the Oregon Coastal Program. And the coastal program provides funding and technical assistance for habitat restoration and other projects that conserve species and habitats of special concern. So in addition to my great personal stake and interest in parks along Coos and Curry County, I also have been a partner with OPRD in a number of projects over the years.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. We appreciate your partnership.
I can share next. I tend to talk a lot, so you guys can just pause me whenever. I was gonna let other people share first, but I put my list
Go
together.
right ahead. Yeah, please
Sorry
do.
for the background noise. So I of course started out with my list with the other things, but then I went back into the positive things. So thank you for reminding me.
Okay.
So what I have is, and I was looking up the one name and I couldn't remember it. So your campgrounds. So in Curry, we have Blanco, Humbug, and Harris and Loeb, right? They're amazing. They're great.
Mhm.
I should say, my name is Phoebe Skinner, and I grew up in Grants Pass. So I grew up inland a bit, but just coming over on 199 to go to Loeb and Harris Beach, Girl Scouts, camping, family stuff, swimming up in Coos, Sunset Bay, and Shore Acres, like all those spaces. So that is my personal history with parks on the coast. And then I moved to Gold Beach in 2013. My husband grew up there actually. And this meeting came at just such an important time in our time together, because we were just hiking at Natural Bridge, and he was having he hadn't been out very much in the parks where there is facilities. Usually we just do like trail hiking, and he was, a lot of emotions come up over what he was seeing when he got there. So I serve on the Gold Beach City Council, and I'm just a super passionate parks person. I'm staying at the park in La Pine tonight when I get back from Montana. So my positives were the campgrounds, the trails, the trail network, I should say, not the trails themselves, but the trail network. The signage at many of the sites have great interpretive signs. The highway signage, if that's my city council talk, right? Like you've worked really well with ODOT to get good signage. And then the property I couldn't remember, the common name is Agate Beach in Port Orford. But thank you. The way the state parks is sharing that with Native peoples, that a pretty impressive thing to see happening. And then in Port Orford as well, the Port Orford Heads Museum in Cape Blanco, the museum out there too. It's just great to see those, and the grounds, actually, the grounds at Blanco and Port Orford. I mean, and the heads are just, they're great. They're a wonderful resource. And another thing I like about both of those places is the parking. And the parking structure maintenance at Humbug, which is underutilized, but the parking at Humbug, Blanco, the Heads, Harris Beach, those are some that really stand out. And you gotta love being a grown up and being excited about parking, right? And then the positive presence of rangers in our community. I think park rangers are one of those government officials that people really connect to. And I think that's something we sometimes overlook.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's great. Great. Thank you for filling out our list of strengths there. We can safely move on to weaknesses with that list.
Somebody might have had an idea
Unless-
come
yeah.
up as I was sharing.
Yeah, no. If anybody else have anything to add to the strengths list before we move on to the not so good things that we could improve on. It sounds like Phoebe she does have her list ready of weaknesses, perhaps, so we could just let you start us off on that too.
I can let somebody else start off because maybe they'll say something we can take off my list.
Anybody
I'll-
else want to start off with a
I'll
weakness?
say
Okay,
something.
very good.
You know, some of these things may be directly out of OPRD's control, but I'm concerned that there hasn't been a lot of funding for habitat restoration and stewardship of some of these rare and special habitats that are on these parks. I've been happy to partner with OPRD and fund a lot of the projects that are getting done, but I'm concerned that if my program should have reduced funding or my successor has other priorities, that a source of funding for some of the habitat and rare species work is going to disappear. And a lot of the work that we do, as you all know, that work down here requires a lot of ongoing vegetation management. And without a continual influx of funding and dedication to some of these habitats, they're going to go away so fast.
Yeah, that's a scary prospect, huh? Thank you for sharing that, and again for your ongoing partnership with that important work. That was mentioned, several times at our public meetings last week, just that sort of thinking of the natural resources in one box and the recreation in another box, when in fact, the natural resources are the base of why people come to recreate there. So thinking of natural resource management as a recreation objective is maybe a great way to look at it. Any other weaknesses that jump to mind for you guys that we should take note of?
Anybody before me?
Darren's got his hand up.
Yeah, I
Darren
can share.
only share a weakness if he also shares a strength.
Oh, no, there's lots of strengths there. I like to talk about weaknesses.
Okay, good. Fair enough.
No, Darren Nebal with the Oregon Department of Transportation. I agree with all those strengths. Beautiful area. Just a few things on weaknesses that just from an ODOT standpoint, we're definitely concerned about parking in some of the high use areas. We're starting to see some concerns along the roadway, and so just would like that to be consideration in the study.
Mhm.
And then also maintenance responsibilities in those wide areas, those parking areas, just kind of who's responsible for what, just so as they get used more, we can make sure we're clear on roles there. And then the Oregon Coast Trail, I think, I don't, well, there's some gaps, right, in the Oregon Coast Trail that we probably would be great to consider in the master plan. And then same with the Oregon Coast Bike Route. I think there's some there, so.
Yeah,
I captured
definitely.
it, Darren.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That those are two really important sort of more regional statewide facilities that the state has done a lot of work to advance those ideas and identify specific projects. So to the extent we can elaborate on those more and definitely not forget to include them in this plan. Thanks for keeping that on the radar. Okay. So maybe let's move on to our.
Can I share a couple of mine?
Oh
that
yes,
have
sorry,
been
Phoebe.
mentioned?
Yes,
That's
yes.
okay.
Let's go.
So thank you, Darren. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Darren. I drive from Gold Beach to Brookings to go swimming. Samuel Boardman is a mess. I don't know what acronym we could put in for mess to stand for. It's super unsafe. It seems like maybe ODOT and state parks could work together on some solutions. So I do have ideas on some solutions. But the safety in Samuel Boardman, not only on the trail system, but on the highway. Yeah, your point of walking back. I remember when I was first dating my husband, I'm not walking on the highway when the trail cuts off. I'm like, what are you doing? The other ones I have listed here are the Secret Beach situation in particular. Both the highway and the trail. And that one, I have some really dramatic plans for that I don't know that lots of people would love. It seems that there's, and this is both a problem and a solution. It seems that there's a lack of friends of the park, local involvement with youth and retirees. So lack of that local connection maybe to supporting the parks, or maybe I'm just missing it. Vandalism and that staffing to address it, the staffing and funding. And we struggle with that at the city level as well, having that abatement budget. It just has to be increased, I think. The Natural Bridge safety issue of people going out on Natural Bridge. Invasive plants already come up. Safety signage is always a balance. You don't want people to be freaked out, but you want people to be safe. So some kind of balance. The underutilization of that Cape Sebastian lot. There's also, and Darren, this might be something, there's also an ODOT staging area at the trailhead for a network or a common hiking trail. And I can't think of what one that is. Buena Vista maybe or something. And then I was actually talking to a friend, and just not for the parks themselves, but for the public meetings, trying to figure out a way to do promotion on the South Coast is challenging to get public awareness out of what's happening. So as the process goes through with that marketing for the engagement. And then the last piece that I had written down here was, and I don't know how to word it exactly, was how do we keep it from getting this bad again? Like, what can we put in this plan and this vision to keep it from coming into the state of disrepair again?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for that very great list of weaknesses that we can work on. Madeline, did you have something to add?
Oh, I just had a question for Phoebe. I was wondering what you mean by underuse of the parking lot.
Cape Sebastian is normally empty. On the main lot, there's 2 lots at Cape Sebastian, and the lower lot is usually empty unless somebody's like car camping. That's the main one. And the upper lot, it's not usually full. And then there was another, that was not an actual parking lot. That was the ODOT land that maybe could be leased partially for parking or something, or informal parking.
Maybe, is that an opportunity, Phoebe?
That one is the opportunity, the ODOT lot, yeah. And do you know,
Okay.
Darren, which one it is? Is it Buena Vista?
I can't picture which one you're talking about there. Is it?
I'll pull up a map and look.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's, it's maybe a few points. I mean, that Cape Sebastian is one of those. I think it's close to 1,800 acres. So it's a huge, actually classified as a state scenic corridor. And there is sort of a system of trails in there, including the Oregon Coast Trail that I would
Sebastian or Samuel Boardman?
Sebastian. Yeah, at Sebastian. Yeah. So anyway, my impression is that there are a couple points that you can access that trail system other than the paved parking lots kind of on the south end of the park that are not sort of legitimately signed, or, you know, that I believe they are probably ODOT parking lots that you know, could be improved, or yeah, we can take a look at how those feed into the trail system there at Cape Sebastian. Great. Any other opportunities that it's nice when some of these ideas just kind of roll from weakness to, hey, there's an opportunity. So thank you for sharing all those things. Zach, do you have something that you'd like to share?
Yeah, hey, can you all hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
I've been quiet, just kind of lurking in the background on this so far, so I wanted to make sure. So I'm Zach Martin. I'm with the Wild Rivers Coast Mountain Bicycling Association. I've met some of you before. I know Justin for sure. But yeah, so our organization works with local land managers just to expand and maintain trail networks in Coosa and Curry counties. Primarily focused on mountain biking, but we do support multi-use, including hiking, motorcycling, that kind of thing. And it's WRCMBA for short. It's kind of how everybody knows us. We're actually going through a name change to make that a little easier. But anyway, so several of our projects, we've benefited from OPRD grants. Super grateful for that. I was thinking about the comment that the last master plan was adopted in 2003. Was that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thinking, 21 years back, right? Like, this is where I'm thinking it's an opportunity. I know OPRD is well aware of how user groups have changed over that time. Obviously, I'm thinking specifically about mountain biking and the growth that's happened in that sport over the last 20 years. So, in Curry County in particular, most of our work has really been focused towards the Forest Service, because we have the Gold Beach Ranger District, which has a lot of space for us to build, improve upon trails. A lot of that stuff was used actually for fighting the Oak Flat fire out there. So there's some definite benefits to that. There's certainly a lot of community support for that. So I just am thinking about how we can try to integrate that more into the state park world as well. So I just wanted to kind of put that comment out there. I know the community is super supportive, and we've funneled a lot of our members towards taking that survey as well too, since
Awesome.
they're interested in seeing more of those recreational opportunities there in Curry County. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Cool. Thanks, Zach.
I'll piggyback
Yeah.
on what Zach just said. Forest Service. We have an amazing, beautiful Forest Service center in Gold Beach, right? Their headquarter building there. And I know in the lobby there's brochures, and for the life of me, I'm not picturing if there are state parks brochures there. There's local flora and fauna, there's hiking trails, biking trails, but I don't know if the actual official state park trails are there. And I was at Freddy's. This is side, not to be typed. I was at Freddy's getting gas, and these people in these like high-end vehicles were like, yeah, you don't even have to camp at a park. You can just pull over on the side of the highway and you can totally just camp. And I'm like, those are actually, I was like trying to be super nice. And I'm like, those are actually like day use areas. And if you go to the parks, you probably could get them in a humbug, and there's showers and there's great trails and rangers to check in with. But I'm like, so an opportunity is to work, I think, with those high-end travelers that are really interested in habitat protection and education around that. And I have like an opportunity that I brainstormed with my friend the other day. She's in business school here in Montana, and I'm just like, she cracks me up. But our Secret Beach situation is an Instagram situation, right? Can we like kind of agree on this? Like, can we somehow get Instagram or other companies like that who are advocating for an amazing place, but are encouraging this excess of our capacity, to somehow, without branding everything, just get that in their social, what do you call that? Your social in business, your social corporate responsibility, to somehow target those industries into some corporate, like making them feel good about it.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the ones that my friend and I came up with. I was just like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
And
definitely, to the extent we can get sort of published articles to focus on lesser used areas, for sure.
Right. Well, that too, but like that really like financial contribution too of donating to the Parks Foundation or tagging it to South Coast. And then the other corporate one that I have, small corporation. So Coos Curry Transfer has a site across from Secret Beach. And they sold the city of Gold Beach some land they had at Hunter Creek. They might be willing to sell that because it's my understanding they're not going to be using it. I don't think it's something that could necessarily be rehabilitated, but it could be parking for Samuel Boardman. And my huge idea that I've been running at every state meeting I've got to is like, what about a vendor that runs a shuttle through Samuel Boardman?
Mhm.
So that is my biggest vision,
Awesome.
with that being like a hub of either Sebastian being a hub spot or that lot that CTR had.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent idea. I like that, Phoebe.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Thank you for those. Sorry, we just have a few minutes left. We want to make sure we don't miss out on any threats that you guys feel we should definitely be aware of coming from, external factors and whatnot. If you guys have any quick thoughts on that to wrap up this workshop. So far, so great.
Threats, like the one thing I didn't mention before is the water safety piece. And I know Luke Martinez with Curry County has been doing so much water safety with our youth lifeguard program each summer and his regular things. So definitely Luke Martinez, but I don't know an example of a threat. What does that mean?
One of the
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say one of the things that came up in our public meeting was, and sometimes you can think of threats, opportunities and threats, maybe some items straddle the line there, but a 1,000-unit residential subdivision being constructed outside of in Brookings, in the city of Brookings, and how that might impact our parks in the vicinity. Things like that, climate change is obviously kind of a large threat that, is uncertain in many ways. Just things like that it's kind of like, should know that these things are going on.
I would think the overall housing situation. I was thinking the opportunities having more housing in the parks, like at Blanco and where Heads. The other one is tied to that friends, that local connection, that threat of not tapping into the kids coming out of our schools who are graduating with less maybe qualifications for college, that may be working with something like a threat would be not engaging the local population. So it gets the opportunity and threat together, right?
Mhm.
And that problem with the communication piece of getting the word out is a challenge in Curry for most everything right now.
Yeah, thanks.
I would say overuse, increasing populations, putting more demand on our parks, especially our natural areas. I've been on the South Coast now for 23 or 4 years, and I've seen parks that never had anyone at them all of a sudden getting very crowded. And I'm concerned that a push to develop the parks, add more amenities, add more restrooms, add more, all these things that make the parks potentially more attractive to people are only going to increase use to the point where we're going to start having further impacts on our
Mhm.
on the wildness that makes our parks so special.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know how this applies to you guys at the state level, but the recreational immunity situation that we're dealing with at the city level, just that whole legal liability of having things that are not maintained, that are really dangerous, that state created danger piece. So
Yeah.
recreational immunity, state created danger, lawsuits, legal liability. And then I'm going to just have you please put social media on here because it's been a huge threat and will continue to be so if not properly balanced somehow with amenities. And
Yeah.
And Karen, I just saw your weaknesses now, and I will make sure they get into the slide. Thank you for those. We do need to wrap up.
And we touched on this earlier, but invasive species.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Next year.
Yeah. Well, just like that, we're here at 1 o'clock and I think we have a great list though, so thank you guys for all your contributions.
Yes, so I want to respect everybody's time today. We know you're all very, very busy out there, but thank you for taking the time to share with us today. I really appreciate the candid, genuine sharing everyone came to the table with. If you didn't get a chance, just remember that there is the online rec survey and website. You can submit your comments through there. It is up through November 15th. So definitely broadcast it out to your networks. And if you think of anything after the fact here, that'd be a good avenue to share it with us. And just want to say that this has been such a fantastic experience to get rolling here. We're really excited to see the work move forward. And I believe there'll probably be some additional outreach and public meetings in the future related to this as we work through the process. So just thank you everyone for your time and hope we all have a